Ben, Jason, and I are thrilled to be joined today with our special guests, Darren Shaw from Whitespark and Chris Dreyer from Rankings.io. Hey, guys.
Hey,
man.
Thanks for having us.
We teased last week that a couple of new kind of ranking studies came out, and Darren and Chris's teams were the ones who put those together. So we're going to be diving into those ranking studies today, and then we'll certainly have some time to tackle some of your questions here as well. But this is a really kind of special situation, and we're just thrilled to have these guys join us. Before we get kicked off, just a little bit of quick housekeeping. Hey, make sure to go to the Local Marketing Institute website, sign up for our email newsletter so you can get invites to all these sessions and more. If you're not yet part of our Facebook group, go out and search for Local Marketing Institute Connect on Facebook group. I think all of us are on there. There's a bunch of other folks on there. It's a really good community, very positive community as well out there, which we really appreciate. And then finally, make sure you're subscribed to our podcast. Again, you can find it on any of the major platforms, or just go to localmarketinginstitute.com and click the podcast link, and you can join us there. Well, again, I'm really thrilled to be joined by Darren and Chris today. Obviously, Ben, Jason are here with me as well. If you all have any questions as we go along, feel free to put them into the Q&A function. We'll try to get to them as much as we can. But Darren, I wanted to maybe start off with you a little bit and talk about your new study you've got out. And let me get to that real quick. Sure. You just put out the 2020 Local Search Ranking Factors. You've been doing this for a while, haven't you?
Yeah.
I guess I've done it.
I've been doing it for 5 years, but I've only managed to publish 3 of them. But yeah, so have been doing it a while now. Has it been 5 years? No. I feel like David handed the reins in
and then David Mem was doing it for a while. Then you were helping him, and then the reins have kind of transitioned, it feels like.
I feel like I missed years, but somehow 2017 and 2020, it's 3 years, and I've done 3 of them. So we're just going to say that I didn't miss anything. The math works out anyways.
Well, tell us a little bit about the study, kind of how it works, what you did, and maybe give us, the high level of what are the major takeaways from this year's study?
Yeah, so the survey is a survey of the top perceived experts in local search. I'm sure there's other experts, but we are not aware of you yet. So any of you out there that are local search experts, make yourself known, and you could maybe be on the survey contributors list next time around. But yeah, so we survey the top experts in local search. Look, there's a list right there. So those are the people, and these people are pretty smart. They're doing local search day in, day out. They know what's happening. You got people like Ben Fisher on there, Platinum, Gmb product expert. You got Joy Hawkins, Mike Blumenthal, David Mim. Just like the who's who of local search, people that are speaking about, writing about, researching, trying to understand what impacts rankings at Google in the local results. So anyways, I asked them a whole series of questions. If you scroll a little bit further, you can see the questions that I asked them. So it's kind of broken up into all of these different questions. The first one I asked them to just kind of score, how do they see, what areas do you think impact local search? And if you scroll back up to see the pie chart, that's what that first question gets at. And so they score it. And, given the weight that they put on each of these sort of main areas, that's where this pie chart comes from. And then I asked some questions like, okay, well, what factors are impacting, what factors do you think have the greatest impact on rankings in local results? And then they sort them. So they drag factors over from the left-hand side to the right-hand side, and then they sort them in their perceived priority. And so what ends up happening is you end up with this list. And so I aggregate all of the data. So I got 42 participants. I aggregate all of that data. And then, you'll see that 20 plus of them said that the primary category in GMB is the #1 factor. And so that gets the biggest score. So in aggregate, it gets the sort of biggest emphasis as this is the #1 factor according to these. Now, it's always important to specify This is a survey of opinions. We don't have some special line at Google where, you know, the engineers told us how it works. It's just all of our aggregated opinions about what is driving local search. But I do think that when you get these 42 people in a room, all putting their thoughts together about... Sorry about that.
That's got to happen.
Together about you know, what is driving local search, you end up with a pretty good picture, because these are the people that are doing the work, seeing the impact, really understanding you know, the ranking. So I don't know, that's what the survey is.
And amongst all these people, I mean, they're working on tens of thousands of listings in aggregate with each other. So they're seeing a wide variety of markets, wide variety of geographical areas, you know, so they're definitely seeing what's out there. I wanted to bring out one thing that I want to make sure that we're very clear on with the audience here. When we're talking local search, there's actually there's the organic rankings, and then there's the Google My Business rankings. And when you're talking about the local search ranking factors, Darren, could you clarify here? Are you talking about all of that combined? Or are you talking about the things these are all the things that specifically impact the GMB rank?
Yeah, so there's two components of it, actually. I do ask a question like, what do you think impacts the local organic result? And if you click through, there's a button somewhere that clicks through to the main study right there. Then you'll see the two pie charts. So pie chart on the left is our pack finder. So that's if, you know, the local pack. And then if you click through to view more details, it goes to the finder. That would impact maps as well. So this is what the experts believe is impacting the local pack finder rankings. And on the right-hand side, you have the organic, which is the blue links under the pack. So, but it's also it's specifically the localized blue links under the pack. So when you type in personal injury lawyers Denver, you're going to see the pack. You're going to see the blue links underneath. And in those blue links, ever since the Venice update, there have been an injection of local businesses here. So it's not, these blue links are not global. They are like right there, Fang Law Firm. That's a Denver-based law firm. So Google knows that that business is based in Denver, and it pulls local businesses into the organic results. And that's what we refer to as local organic. So it's really, we want to understand what's driving that stuff and what's driving the rankings in the pack. And I'll just tell you, the stuff down in the main list, it's really driven by your website and your links. It's almost completely that. You know, your other factors like reviews, citations, your GMB, they don't really impact your ability to rank down in the local organic. But your website and your links have a massive impact on how you rank in the local pack. So it's the three pillars of local search: relevancy, proximity, and prominence. And those things they come into play on all of these.
That's awesome. Anyway, that's why I want to make sure that we were very clear with everybody that when he's talking about the local search survey he did here, they're talking about both, hey, how do you rank for here in the local pack, which is your Google My Business listings, and then how do you rank in the organic listings, which are these website links down here. So thanks for clarifying that, Darren.
Yeah, I'm giving some long-winded answers here. I gotta.
No, it's awesome. No, it's awesome, man. I appreciate it. So what are the biggest takeaways then? I mean, do you have like a quick TLDR on
that chart right there?
Hey, this is what impacts it.
Yeah. So that chart is great because it really shows sort of the changing sentiment over the years. In 2013, you will see that GMB was, 20% of the score. Then it actually dropped in 2015. So people put more emphasis on things like website and links in 2015. And you can see those pink bars on page and links in 2015 versus GMB. But then over the last two surveys, 2018 and 2020, you can see this jump where it increases over time. And so that's what we're talking about here. And you could really see that GMB signals have taken the lion's share in 2020 as the predominant signal. Now, I think that's wrong. I do think that it's overstated. And I think it's overstated for for a number of reasons. The main thing is that we lump things like proximity and physical, presence in the city into the Gmb factors, and they're really. It's not like it's something you can control. You can't pick up your business and move it, and so. The problem is that those are proximity is a huge player. It makes a massive impact on how you rank, but it kind of skews this. And so when you look at this, it's unfortunate that this might inform to you that I should put all of my time and effort into GMB. That would be a very poor local search strategy. You must diversify across. The first four are your keys, and you have to definitely get GMB, but GMB is actually pretty quick and easy. It's your primary category. It's your additional categories. It's if you're willing to change your business name, getting those keywords in the business name, they have a huge impact on local search. But other than that, the rest of it kind of becomes conversion rate optimization for your GMB listing. The other things don't really impact your ability to rank. And there's two things that I talk about in this survey that's different this year than last year. One is I want to do some myth busting. So I talked about I asked the question, like, what are some things that people think impact rankings but don't? And that would be things like keywords in your GMB description. Chris, I noticed your study talked about that. It'd be interesting to have a little chat about that. Keywords in Google Posts, keywords in your services. A lot of those places that people are stuffing keywords, they don't actually impact rank. They can impact conversions, and they're important, but your actual GMB rank improvement checklist is pretty small. Your focus is reviews, absolutely, website, absolutely, and links, and like getting more links and improving the content on your website, doing internal linking, optimizing your pages, building out more content. All of that will have a much greater impact because GMB is almost a once and done from a ranking perspective. It's never done from a conversion perspective. You can always make it better, but it is when I look at this chart, I just wanted to let people know that like you don't throw all your eggs in the GMB basket because you see that big blue spike.
So I got a couple of quick observations that I'm sure Chris, Ben, and Jason are dying to get in a couple of questions here too. But one of the observations that I'll throw out here just for this, Darren, was it's very interesting to see that the increase in GMB seems to be somewhat correlated with the decrease in the emphasis on other citations out there.
Yeah.
So,
I would love to talk about
maybe it's not necessarily that these are kind of relatively holding constant.
Yeah.
But this has really dropped down. That people are saying, hey, look, Google is not relying upon third-party citations anywhere near as much as they used to.
Yeah. So I talk about this in this post that you're on right now. My take on the citation thing is different than some others in the industry. There has definitely been a growing sentiment over the past 5 years of a decline in the importance of citations. So my take on it is that it's a perceived decline in importance, because what I think has happened is, if you go back to 2013, it wasn't as competitive. You have, you look at the local pack and you look at the top 10 results, and then maybe back then only like 3 businesses were thinking about it, dealing with it, investing in it, working on it. And so citations could be a bit of a differentiating factor. You could go out and build 100 citations, but since no one else was doing it, you would get that boost. Now, the market is so saturated. You've got 50 businesses in your category. They're thinking about local search. They recognize the impact and the value of Google's local results. And so everybody's getting the citations. And so you don't see the boost that you used to see. And so this perceived drop of like, well, I used to build citations. They had a big impact. I would rank really well. That is something that you don't see as much anymore. And so this perception of the drop. I will say that Google has gotten better at triangulating your business data on the web. And so one of the things that is a perceived drop in value and is, I believe, an accurate drop in value is that back in the old days, Google really cared about not consistency. It's like if you didn't have the 3 name, address, phone number correct on all of your listings, it would have a negative impact because you wouldn't get credit for those mentions on the internet. Now, Google's entity database, they're much better at identifying. So if you've got the same name, address, phone number is different, but the website URL is the same, Google can see that and be like, oh, that's the same business. You don't need to rush out and change that phone number. And so people take citation consistency too far. That used to be important, it's less important now. And especially when we're talking about on some of the peripheral local business directories like To Find Local or My Huckleberry. Sorry, My Huckleberry, I always trash it.
Yeah. Jason, I think you had a couple questions you wanted to ask.
Yeah, I noticed the increase in importance in reviews. So my question is going to be a couple of parts. Is it the overall count or the quantity of the quality of the reviews themselves? And did people notice like a drop off after X amount of reviews?
Or the recency regularity? I'd like to add that in there too.
Yeah. Well, it's okay. I don't have the answers to those questions. I do think they're great questions. If only a Google engineer would be on here. I think, in my opinion, volume is the key thing. So there's a certain threshold of volume you want to get to, and then after that, you get diminishing returns. Almost like with citations. You build all your citations, you get diminishing returns. So what I always recommend people do is, in their industry, if they're in their results, Denver personal injury lawyers, for example, they would want to see what is the average. So, most of the businesses ranking in the top have 200 reviews. Well, then you want to get 250. Once you have 250 Google reviews, you want to diversify. You want to get that, but you should be diversifying and getting reviews on all of the other important sites in your industry as well. And so, volume, I think, plays the biggest role. Keywords in the reviews also play a big role, and that goes to your quality, question. Like, are people writing enough about you? The more words that they say, the more likely that those keywords will get associated with your listing. And there is a patent that talks about that. And not only will keywords in the reviews boost it, but if it's a negative review, you can actually see a bit of a kickback. And so if you're a plumber and people keep mentioning drain cleaning and it's a negative review, that can actually decrease your rankings. There's a patent that talks about this, that you can actually get a hit because everyone is talking about drain cleaning and this plumbing company has a negative reaction. And so now we're gonna dial down your ability to rank for drain cleaning. But everyone that mentions hot water tank installation says that this company is awesome. And so Google's actually smart enough to differentiate what's in your reviews and how that might impact your rank.
Chris, do you have a question?
Yeah, I got a couple questions. One, first of all, I completely agree about the context of the review. I saw that firsthand for a firm in Michigan that was giving away backpacks, and all the reviews mentioned backpacks, and it wasn't talking about the law. So,
did they rank for backpacks?
Yeah, they had. Well, they weren't ranking as well as they should have due to the number of reviews that they had, just because the relevancy of all the reviews statements just weren't related to legal services.
Right.
So I kind of had a question, and I don't know the exact answer to this too, but I kind of wanted to field this to you, Darren, and everyone else. I see the same thing in citations, and what I'm trying to wonder is it that Google, because there's so much saturation, that they're looking for these more dense listings, this more thorough pieces of content that gets crawled? And is it a situation where maybe the directories aren't being crawled as frequently and it's...
Yeah. I have another theory, and I do mention this in my post about citations and this perceived value. One of the things that I've realized, and is really interesting, I don't know if any of you caught my presentation at MozCon in 2019. So I did this presentation where I took a business from absolutely no online presence, and I slowly stepped through each of the SEO things that you would do for local search. So step 1, got them a Gmb listing. Step 2, built them a little Gmb website. Step 3, built out a bunch of citations. And then every time I do it, I would wait a couple months before I did the next thing to see what the impact was. And so I did that across all the different things. And at the end, we had a great Gmb listing, a full set of citations, we had reviews, we had a website, we had links coming in. And so I could see what the impact was over time, and I measured each thing. So at the end of that presentation, this company, they're friends of ours, we did no other SEO work, zero. Didn't change their website, didn't add any links, didn't do anything. But phenomenally, their rankings not only doubled and tripled and quadrupled over the next year. The amount of terms that they rank for and the positions that they ranked in those terms, for those terms, went through the roof. We didn't touch their website. We didn't do anything. And so I honestly, I don't know. This is a case study of one. It's a sample size of one. But a theory brewing in my mind is that the impact of citations has a long time horizon. And the reason for that is I might submit 100 citations, but it takes, 6 months for them to even go live on the websites. I might submit, but it doesn't show up on that website for 5 months because there is a moderation process. There's someone on the end of that website that sees my submission, doesn't go live on it until later. So you've got this long time period where the citations are trickling in. And not only that, to your question, your point, Chris, about this sort of deep crawling and the indexation of these citations, Google takes a really long time to find them as well, because we're talking about a massive website, huge, like how many pages are on a directory with very low domain authority. Google is not like, oh, I'm gonna waste my entire crawl budget crawling these rinky-dink citation directory websites. And so it takes a really long time for Google to find those listings. So you don't really get the credit and the benefit for those citations as soon as you build them. It takes 6 months, a year and a half before the true Google really sees all the stuff that you have, all the mentions you have for your business out there. And so perhaps that's why their rankings continue to go up. It's one theory that you continue to sort of reap the rewards of a citation build over time. Other theories could definitely be it's just age. There's a lot of talk about the age of things and sandboxing. And so because it was new, the Gmb listing was new, the website was new, even the links were new. And so it takes time for those things to age before Google fully trusts them. It could be that too. So I'm not pinning it all on the citations saying, look, we proved it, citations are amazing. I can't say that, but it does make me think about that time horizon for citations.
Yeah, I want to dive in. Go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I noticed, and Ben just did this similar too, but I noticed if you don't have any additional citations and you just create your GMB, you're less likely to trigger a KP result, right? That knowledge panel for your business. But once you start building out your core, and I mean like the real legit core, not, myhuckleberry.com or anything like that. But when you're building out, Facebook, Yelp, Bing, Yahoo, Apple Maps, those core ones, then you will start noticing that you'll start reaping those benefits and less from doing, like a citation blast. So there's still some value, but yeah, I mean, the days of going out and buying 1,000, citations, with, those services, long gone, done.
1,000 is way too many.
I'd like to in on here on this one real quick.
Yeah, what do you think, Ben?
You actually tweeted this the other day in response to what you saw in the study, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, so I personally have always been, you all know this, right? I've been very anti-citation, right? It's been on the decline. I don't believe in it. And to the most part, I still don't believe in it. I'm testing though, right? So what I did with my test was my test was going to be a long test. And by a long test, we're talking about 3 years. And it's a case study of one. And it was about me, right? Steady demand, basically. So what I did with steady demand our physical proximity is based in Austin. And when we first set up the Gmb, we're talking about 5, 6, 7 years ago. I said, okay, the only thing that I'm going to do with this is I'm going to optimize my Gmb just like we would for any client. I'm going to keep an eye on it just like we would for any client. I'm going to build links naturally by speaking, writing, etc. Right? Just doing good SEO techniques, on-page optimization, etc. but I'm not going to do any type of citation work whatsoever. So I did that for about 2 years. Then when I said, okay, it's time. Now I'm going to go out and I'm going to go get a Yelp listing. And I want to see what happens once I get a Yelp listing, because I've got a baseline of 2 years worth of data to show me that I have zero, basically local traffic whatsoever, or local queries. So I got the Yelp listing and I sat on that for about 8 months, something like that. Nothing happened whatsoever. Queries did not increase. Local traffic did not increase. Then, as we were kind of doing some internal evaluation, I said, you know what, I'm going to go out and I'm going to go use Darren's service, and which, by the way, everybody, is awesome. If you are not using Darren's citation service, do so. Plug, got to do it. So, but I believe in it. So I went out and I said, okay, well, I'm going to evaluate this for our clients too. Will this help? And I went and bought 5 local citations. $25, right? So the team built them out over a 2-month period. When they were done, I got my report and I said, okay, well, time to go take a look at Gmb queries and see if I'm getting anything. Then basically, lo and behold, there was about 50 new queries that had popped up, all local intent. Again, it's only a case study of 1, but it shows me that Google's looking at the semantic entity correlation with the local proximity, basically, which just makes sense. I still don't believe in blasting out tons of citations, and I am going to test that later, probably next year. But if I want to test the local a little bit further. But yeah, I mean, I think that overall, I mean, citations have just been something that local SEOs have been found as something that they can easily sell on a monthly basis. And it's like, yeah, we're still doing something for you, but do they actually work? And I think the answer, of course, is still no, except for local. Anyway.
Darren, I know you got to run here pretty soon. Appreciate you being out here with us, but there's one more quick question I wanted to ask. We're getting lots of different questions about the factors that seem to influence a GMB ranking. So I wanted to just quickly dive in a little bit on this particular part of the study that you talked about here, the top GMB factors, and then a little bit about these factors here as well. So would you give just a couple minutes on these?
Yeah, so GMB was a huge piece of the pie. As I mentioned earlier, I think that's a bit skewed. There are only a handful of things that you can really optimize within GMB. So if you look on this chart here, you see primary GMB category, hands down, you got to get that right. If you're an electrician, you're not going to rank for towing. So, your primary category is going to be electrician. So obviously that's going to heavily impact what you can rank for. Keywords in your GMB business name. This is a very unfortunate factor because it leads to spam. People stuffing keywords in their business name. Heck, it works great. Overnight, you could rank really well. The problem is that you can get your listing suspended. And so there is a case to be made for actually changing your business name, though. You have to change it everywhere. So you actually change it on your website, you change it at the Secretary of State, you register it, you change it with your phone company, your utility company, you change your signage, you change everything to do with your business. You actually do a full business name change. All right, cool. Now you're legit and you can actually use that business name on Google. The reason why keywords in the business name is so effective is because of branded search. If someone types in, best moving company Denver, they might actually be looking for the business named best moving company Denver. So Google has to surface that result. Be like, oh, well, it sounds like it's a general keyword, but it also matches a brand with that same name. So maybe they're looking for that specific brand. I have to surface it. And so it's just like if someone types in Starbucks. And so that's the reason why keywords in the business name work so well. And so it also is the reason why it's a tough problem for Google to solve, because they need to be able to support branded search, but everyone's stuffing their keywords with their business name with keywords now. But anyways, that's a crummy factor. I wish Google would fix that, but
there's a whole other issue though we may want to go into later on in another session, and that's the whole fact. I've seen businesses who say, hey, the discussion, should we rename our business to match more of a generic search or a branded search? And the drawback to that is that if you kind of rename your business to more generic terms, you now get lost oftentimes when people are specifically looking for your business in a branded search. Yeah.
Yeah, anyway. It's a tough one. Yeah. So yeah, a lot of people do this, like, here's my brand name, and then, oh, here's like 10 keywords that I want to rank.
Right. Any other things you want to add on this?
Yeah, you suspended.
And then talk about these three real quick here, because I was very interested in this and the big X's through them.
Yeah, I would actually just go up real quick and say, like, oh my God, please do additional categories too. Like, don't just focus on the one primary category. That additional GMB categories is huge. You definitely need to cast a wider net. There was a concept years ago about this concept of category dilution. Like, if you add more categories, you're going to dilute the impact, your ability to rank for other ones. That's been dispelled as a myth. Add as many additional categories that are relevant for your business that you can, but just make sure that they're actually relevant for your business.
That are relevant for your business, key.
Yeah. So down to the other three things. These things are things you can't really impact. So keywords in your GMB business title, you really shouldn't be doing that. It's considered spam. You can get your listing removed. Proximity of address to the point of search. So that's like being close to the person that's searching. It's a massive ranking factor, but there's nothing you can do about it. You can't pick up your business and move it all over the city. And then just being in the city that someone's searching, of course. So you can't really action those items. You can't do anything about them. So GMB is just a fairly small piece of the pie in terms of what you can optimize. The things that you can optimize in GMB for rankings is not very much. But you must, and I highly encourage everyone to really focus on building out a fantastic GMB listing. Whether or not those things that you add, adding photos, filling out your products, filling out your services, adding a great description, regularly doing Google posts. Those things, they may not impact your rank, but they have a massive impact on who's going to pick up the phone and call you. When you look at two websites, you got one website here, oh, it just says, oh, here's my name, address, phone number. Are you compelled to be like, that's the plumber for me? Or when you look at a website that goes into detail about all of their services, you can see pictures, you can read testimonials, you can see what their specials are, you can learn about jobs that they're currently doing. That's what a website facilitates. And so compare those two websites. Which one are you going to call to be your plumber? Same thing happening.
So glad you said that.
Yeah, the same thing is happening on Google. And so you need to build out your listing and make it look amazing for the conversion factor. If you don't do it, you're just lost in a sea of other listings, and you'll have people won't be compelled to call you. So that's what we're calling conversion rate optimization for your Google listing. It's spawned from Mike Blumenthal's early insight into the concept of Google as your new homepage, because people don't necessarily need to go to your website anymore. So there's still huge value. And actually, that's why that 33% is so big on GMB, because it is driving so many leads. GMB is extremely important, but this is the ranking factor survey. And so that's where it just gets a little funny.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Hey, I know you got to bail, and we want to honor that. I just want to let everybody know, do check out Whitespark.ca. This is a company that Darren runs there. They do really, really good work out there. And, you know, Darren and his team, good people, and they just know their stuff, and they do good work. So make sure you go out, check them out at Whitespark.ca. And they don't just service Canada. Don't let the .ca throw you off. They're really good at all listings, including the U.S. So I'll just
probably about 85% of our business in the U.S.
Yeah. Hey, I'm a fan of the Canucks, so there you go.
Yeah. Hey, had a big launch today. We just launched a brand new, completely overhauled, reworked local rank tracker product. It's been nice. It's been a work in progress for years, and I am so thrilled with it. I just tweeted about it. I'm really excited. It's really good. You should check it out.
Go check it out, guys. Hey, we'll say goodbye to you, Darren, here, and maybe we'll have you back again sometime for just an open Q&A.
Yeah, I hope you guys talk about the discrepancy between my study and Chris's study about keywords in the description. I want to hear what you have to say. I'm going to follow up on that.
We absolutely will.
I was going to say, Darren,
discussion.
I was going to say, actually, the survey, they're really close, honestly.
Oh, are they?
Yeah, they're really close.
I was worried you were lumping just like keywords in the business name and description together, or are you looking at them separately?
Separately.
Then I think my take on it is that it's correlation, not causation.
Yeah, it could be. Could be.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
Bye, everybody. Thanks a lot for having me. It was awesome to chat with you guys.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Darren.
Darren.
Appreciate your time.
See ya.
See ya.
Well, so Chris, I'm going to turn it over to you, my friend. So if for those of you who don't know, Chris runs rankings.io. He happened to come out with a survey almost at the same time. I think yours was a few weeks earlier, or it was right about the same time, give or take. But Chris is a little bit different, whereas what Whitespark did was a survey of SEO, well-respected SEO professionals out there. Chris and his team actually went and looked at data from a bunch of Google My Business listings across 426 US cities. So Chris, I'll turn it over to you. Give us the quick overview of what you found here.
Yeah, so the first thing is the survey, Darren and ours is really close. So there's maybe the weighted differences are a bit different, but it's nice to see that the individuals that were surveyed are pretty dead on. I do want to point out too, when you had the other picture up with the X's through it, that is absolutely something in the personal injury vertical that absolutely gets impacted. So we have now many firms, we're talking, 8 and 9 figure firms, when they're doing expansion based tactics, the first thing they do is they come to me and they say, hey, where should I open my office? So we'll drop a local Falcon proximity grid around a location. To give you an example of a firm that many individuals will know, if you're going to open a firm in Jacksonville, the home of Morgan and Morgan, you're not going to open it up right next door to Morgan and Morgan. It would be wise to open 5 to 10 miles away from Morgan and Morgan and have a substantial, a better opportunity to rank.
By the way, I'll just throw this out there because you threw out Local Falcon. I'm not sure that our audience really knows what Local Falcon is. If you haven't seen it, this is Local Falcon. It's a really good way to look at your rank visibility, not just from a single point, but from a wide geographic area, because you may rank number 1 here, but you may be ranking number 10 just a few miles away. So that's the whole proximity thing. So for what that's worth, didn't mean to interrupt you there. I just want to make sure people knew what Local Falcon was since you dropped that. Sure.
Yeah, and the other thing I want to say before we get to our findings of the study, the nature of studies is this. When you do a study, there's findings, and then you have to do additional studies to validate your initial study. So in terms of, correlation and causation and things like that, absolutely could be true. And it requires secondary studies, but I do like the data-based analysis. It's just a different approach, and it gets you a lot more information, a lot more data. So let's just jump right into it. If you want to scroll down, Eric, and I'll kind of cover again, relevance, distance, prominence, relevance, keyword usage, categories, things like that, distance, city, and the area. These are things that's pretty foundational. And then moving down. So out of this study, we looked at 426 cities of at least 100,000 inhabitants, and so there were thousands of results that we got this information from, and I'll kind of go over these, and then I'll start spraying some theories at Jason and Ben, and we'll see what we have to go from here. But number 1, city listed in the GMB profile has the greatest impact on your rank. Well, that's a no-brainer. If you want to rank in St. Louis, you need a St. Louis address. However, I do want to point out that there are some times in some locations where you may consider yourselves a St. Louis person and have a Clayton, Missouri address. So it would be better, you'd have a better opportunity to rank for the St. Louis phrases if you had a St. Louis address. So that was number 1, pretty foundational. Number 2, I'm just going to say duh here. If you want to, again, Darren's statement of if you want to rank for plumber, you need plumber as the category. It's the same for the legal vertical. And I would say it's particularly important that this is something actually in the legal vertical that gets inputted incorrectly, because a lot of times they'll just type in lawyer, attorney, and they forget to type in personal injury. So you do need to audit. There is a specific category for personal injury attorneys, and just make sure you get that right.
By the way, I do want to throw out there that even though this study was specifically for personal injury attorneys, there is a ton of information here that's applicable to just about any business. So even though Chris is talking specifically about this, substitute your own particular specialty here.
Yeah, and the personal injury vertical is very, very saturated, and it is highly impacted by spam. So when you saw Darren's study where it talked about the impact of reporting spam, if you want to compete in this space, you have to be very active at reporting spam. It's just the nature of the legal vertical. So number 3 is the big one, right? That's a lot of, you got 3 follow-up questions and you got everybody hates it. And again, it's the challenge of the branded search. It's not an easy fix, but this is where you'll see individuals adjusting their name to incorporate not only lawyer and attorney, but even the word accident and injury in their phrases. So if you look at Chicago, you've got Staver accident injury lawyers. You look at Los Angeles, you got eye accident lawyers. You look at Philly, you got Philly slip and fall guys. You look at all over the nation in the legal vertical, you're seeing firm name, accident injury lawyers. It's awful. The word accident itself is so incredibly important because most personal injury attorneys, their main profit center is motor vehicle accidents. Well, the main queries associated with motor vehicle accidents always have the word accident in them. So you'll see that, and it's unfortunate, but it works. This study validates it, and it's something that I think everyone on here just really hopes is fixed.
So Chris, one thing that I just want to throw out here, and I'm sure Jason Ben might want to weigh in on this a little bit too. So certainly adding lawyer or attorney or accident attorney, adding that keyword to your GMB company title name out there, just like these guys did here, right? Staver accident injury lawyers. There's 2 ways to go about this. One way is you just add this to the end of your name, but it's not actually your legal company name, and that has been shown to work. But also, and a lot of spammers will do things like that. But it's also a great opportunity to get not only that listing, but maybe even your entire account suspended and wiped out. Whereas what you're talking about here, and I think probably what you're trying to correlate with here is this company actually rebranded themselves. This is an example of a company that actually changed their name legally on the legal documentation or an official DBA or whatever it may happen to be. This is it. And that actually is their actual legal company name. So make sure we make that differentiation here.
Yeah, absolutely, Eric. And actually that specific example actually did pull their registration, and it is their legal filing. So it's, in these very saturated, overly competitive markets, unfortunately, some of these things work, and it forces you in this decision whether to do a whole rebrand, to change your signage, to change your name, you do your legal filing, all of that, you change your copy, your references.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate, but it has a big impact. It's just the nature of it, unfortunately.
Well, and that's always the big question. Do you spend the money, time, and effort to do that kind of rebranding, only to maybe have Google change how they do things a couple of years down the road? And do you lose, any brand equity you had? And it's a radical move to try to do that.
It's not only that though. Jason, just one second. It's not only that though. It's just not about if Google's going to change something, right? Or if and when, I should say, Google changes something. But it also becomes down to diminishing returns. And what I mean by that is that for the past year or so, some people have been doing this and they've got success. However, what's going to now happen is now the word's gotten out, lawyers are all talking to each other, everybody's changing their name legally. Right. So once everybody does it, all of a sudden your competition now goes through the roof. Where you were number one, you're no longer number one.
So you got to go back to the fundamentals that we talked about, the reviews, the optimization, the conversion optimization, all those things.
Yeah, and I 100% agree with Ben. 100%. And I want to skip, I know we're at number 3, but that is why number 5 on our study in the legal vertical, personal injury vertical, doesn't have as much impact. It's because everybody has a 4.9 or 5 or 4.8 to 5. If everyone has it, it's not going to skew one person either or direction. Now, the follow-up portion of the study that I wish we could do or wish we had was, hey, let's survey just the people that have 1-star and 2-star reviews and see how they're doing, right? Then we would have we would be able to give, validate, give a little bit more impact to this. We're guessing, right? But we'd have more information. And I just wanted to say that because it's now everybody's doing it. Now it's kind of the nature of the beast.
I do want to bring out, Chris mentioned at the beginning of this to say, hey, look, guys, just because there's correlation doesn't necessarily mean causation. And so Chris was really good to point out. And I think it's like, number of reviews correlated with higher positions doesn't necessarily mean that's what caused it, but
it's just what the data says. Right. The data for this study says that. And that's why I really wanted to point that out. The other thing is the higher number of reviews correlated. Well, that's a lot of relevancy phrases, things like that, of course. That there's some follow-up studies there. I wanted to point out, though, that one additional study I would like to do is that review rating, because to show up for those superlative queries, the best personal injury firm near me, the top personal injury firm near me, you're not going to show up if you got a 1-star review. So it may show you less, if you have a lower review count because of the superlative. So that kind of counters a little from Darren's in regards to the reviews. That's just a little, just an opinion again. The number 6, the greater number of photos in the GMB profile was strongly correlated with GMB position. Again, this may be correlation equals causation. And here's what my opinion is on this. My opinion is the individuals that are doing SEO and really thoroughly optimizing their profiles and building links and have great content are going to fill out their profiles in more detail. So yes, if they have more photos, well, the other factors are probably being impacted. They're probably doing the great on-page optimization, the proper types of link acquisition techniques and things like that. So that's another one that's kind of skirting on the line there, and I'll be really transparent with that one.
Jason, you have some thoughts?
Yeah, a couple things. One, if you are going to go and think about doing a rebrand on your GMB, your business name, so that you can get your keywords into GMB, just be prepared for a suspension right now. So we know that GMB is super sensitive right now. You go in, you touch any edits to any of your core data, name, address, telephone number, website, categories, you do risk a suspension right now. And we are in the holiday season, so there could be a delay with getting them reinstated. But yeah, I think you're going to have a false positive if you start ranking overnight by changing your business name, and then you might get a little cushy and not do all the other parts that you should be doing, just because you're getting that ranking boost from that name. And yeah, Google, we know, changes stuff quite frequently, and if they ever take that away, you're going to be back to zero, trying to figure out, well, what do I need to do? So I'm not a fan of chasing the shiny metrics. Do what you need to do. For that part, one thing I'd like to ask Chris to kind of do, as a follow-up, how many of these companies that you looked at do you think were working with marketing companies that were actively, pushing, their marketing, whether it was, review solicitations, GMB posts, linking, all of the normal marketing stuff. Like, I wonder if there's like a major factor in the people that are ranking the well are the ones that are putting a bunch of money into their marketing and not just, setting it and forgetting it with GMB.
So Jason, that's a great point, and I'm glad you asked it. So we looked at the top 426 cities of over 100,000 inhabitants, and I would say the larger the population, the more inhabitants, the more likely it is that they're working with a professional, an SEO company. And So that may have a big impact on this data for sure. If we open it up across the United States, then we may get entirely different results. And I think that's why things that are popping up on here, like photos and regular updates to GMB and SEO tendencies and things like that. Well, yeah. I mean, if you're in Houston and you want to rank in the map pack for personal injury lawyer, you really need to work with a professional who really knows what they're doing. So yeah, I think that's a great point, and I'm glad you made it. The rest of them, look, the GMB updates again kind of falls in line with what Jason said. I'm not sure. I think it's good to show the updates and to show activity and do those types of things. That would need a follow-up study. And I think the other, as indicated in Darren's study, age-old best practices in terms of on-page SEO, in terms of link building,
the actual website itself that has the impact on the GMB listing.
Yeah.
Chris, I was just going to say one thing. I was just thinking, as you were saying that, I was just thinking about one thing. So one of the things that really does drive ranking in general with Google is like engagement signals, right? When you're continually filling it out, you're uploading photos, you're answering your reviews, doing Q&As, doing all the good things that you're supposed to be doing with GMB and just kind of SEO in general, those increase ranking engagement signals, right? Which are semantically correlated, etc. Anyway, it would be interesting, I think, if you were to repeat this kind of a study, but take out everything, all the profiles which are actually active and doing things with their profiles, and just do it on blank profiles, which there's tons of those. Blank profiles, non-owned profiles, not spam, but non-owned, or ones that say you take a look at them and they haven't done a Google My Business post in a year, for instance. They haven't uploaded a photo in a year. No reviews, things like that, or they're not getting new reviews. That kind of a study, I think, would be interesting to see too. How do they rank?
Yeah, I completely agree, Ben, and definitely that'd be an excellent follow-up study. The other thing is Google's patent. If you've read, well, I'm sure you guys, they always pop them up in search engine land and across all the articles anytime they file a new patent. But they for sure have the UX-based patents for click-through rate percentages. So one of the follow-up studies that I've wanted to do is use a service like a SERP Empire, SERP Clicks to actually manipulate that component, because most studies are based upon links or on-page SEO and kind of that kind of stuff. But I would actually like to do another study that we've been talking about that would take more into the activity-based approach, the clicks, the activity, the regular posts, and those types of elements. It'd be kind of interesting to do. The other thing I just kind of, the one thing that I wanted to say is, I think that it's the nature of your industry in regards to what tactics you are actually comfortable with too. And what I mean by that is, yes, citations may not have the impact that they did, but I'm more of the abundance mindset because they're low cost and they're easy to do. They're just data entry. So we do target thousands. Right now, Google may devalue and bury ones that are, that they don't favor or for whatever reasons. But as long as they're relevant, as long as they're, they look okay, they're curated, we're adding images, we're filling those profiles out in depth just because they're easy. And it just doesn't take a huge time commitment. And I don't have the information to know whether they truly have that large impact or not. So we're trying to take all these abundance aspects of what's the 1%, the one little thing that we can do in the personal injury space that may have a little impact over our competition.
Hey, so I just want to give us a little 2-minute warning here if there's any things we don't wrap up. I know there's a lot of questions that would have come through. We're probably not going to be able to get to those today because I wanted to give both Darren and Chris time to go through their stuff. But we will record all these questions, and hopefully you guys can join us in January, and we'll ask them again. But any last thoughts, Chris, Ben, Jason, on these two studies you want to dive into? I did put the link to the study in the chat. Oh, by the way, go check out rankings.io. Especially if you're a law firm, go check out rankings.io. You definitely want to do that. But even if you're not, go follow what Chris has to say, because a lot of stuff they do is applicable to other businesses as well. So any last thoughts, guys?
Yeah, I was going to say, it sounds like you really need to be on the offense and the defense. So you need to be, monitoring your Google listings. You need to be, doing your due diligence with it, making sure that, you're working on your links, your regular citations, your categories. But, we kind of glossed over it, but spam fighting is like super huge right now. It could be the difference between your phone ringing and your phone not ringing. I mean, we mentioned some of the big players, that we know, Morgan & Morgan, accident lawyers, but we see, a whole slew of lead gen listings popping up, especially with personal injury space. So you really need to think about that aspect of not just doing a good job for your overall listing or for your clients, but looking at who's coming in and trying to box you out.
And I 100% echo what Jason just said, right? Spam fighting is the easiest local SEO win. It's not just the PI space. It's all over the place. Go look at tree pruning in your area, and you will see nothing but spam listings.
Go look at what?
Tree pruning.
Tree pruning, believe it or not, of all things. So, but also I want to just kind of get back to kind of go on that, and that is that Google always considers your listing as guilty until proven innocent. So when you're stuffing keywords into your name, somebody can still report you because maybe they haven't done the research, they haven't checked the Secretary of State. They'll report you, and that's a manual operator who is looking at your listing, and they might just say, you know what? I don't know. I just haven't had my coffee this morning, so I'm just going to go ahead and suspend them. So that does happen. It happens all the time. And that's a little bit different than a false positive. That's actually just Google saying, I don't believe you. The other thing is that what we've seen I'd say out of both of these studies, the one big takeaway that I would look at is this, is the location of your business. We have moved businesses' locations just sometimes a couple blocks to be inside the city, basically, because like maybe they were just literally a couple blocks outside of the boundaries, and immediately as soon as we verified, rankings shot through the roof. So really carefully plan where your location is, and you know what? Moving is sometimes not a bad idea, especially if it's going to give you a 200% increase in the amount of sales that you're making.
Ben, I just
Awesome.
want to say one add-on to that, 100% agree, dead on. And a lot of times businesses, when they look at expansion, they always think of a new city. They'll think, hey, I'm in Houston, I need to go to Atlanta, I need to go to Los Angeles. No, in most cases, you need to look at a different location in Houston, maybe another location within your same city because of proximity.
And actually, Local Falcon has a really great way of doing that. So what you can do is you just basically, of course, you center on yourself, you do your search. As soon as you see your fall off, so you set your grid as large as you can. As soon as you see your fall off, okay, boom. That's when you need to do a pin.
Great. Well, guys, thank you so much. I mean, I know we could probably go on for another hour and just talk about all this stuff. It's fascinating, but I really appreciate you, Chris, coming on. Darren, I know you had to leave early, but we appreciate you coming on. Ben, Jason, as always, really appreciate having you here as well. And to everyone who joined us, have a wonderful holiday, and we will see you guys back here the first week of January. So make sure you're on our email list, and we will make sure to update you. Have a wonderful time. Talk to you soon.